Don't want to do that. That's no good. All right. Chevy CRUZE. It's got a complaint about a misfire, and they said the check engine light was flashing. It's definitely on right now, and I definitely feel like an ignition cutout. You feel the engine like someone's banging on the dashboard every time the engine cuts out. I got the old snap-on modus. We're gonna see what Mr. Snappy thinks. Scanner. Not scanner danner, just scanner. Now this thing's missing pretty good now. The longer it runs, the worse it gets. Temperature-related misfire often equates to a bad ignition coil. 6-speed automatic, so it's not a high-performance car. DTC display. Lean. Evap system flow during non-purge. Current DTC. This means the purge is probably sticking open, but that should set a rich code, not lean. That's kind of strange. When the purge is open, it's not supposed to be. It's going to allow fuel vapors to get pulled into the motor, so it should be adjusting the fuel down, saying it's too rich. It's kind of strange. Man, it's misfiring pretty big now. See if you can see it in the tack. That was a little bouncy poo. Bink, bink, bink. This thing is it's only got 50,000 miles on it, which is about twice the life expectancy for your average Chevrolet Cruze. But it's definitely not running good at all. I mean, it's getting worse and worse and worse the longer it runs. And it's only doing it at idle. So you know what we're gonna do? Since we have a misfire at idle, as the engine warms up, we have an evap code and we have a lean code. That tells me that we're gonna need to go look at fuel trim. So I'm gonna back out here to the data display. Now I want to find my short fuel trims down here. Snap-on breaks it into categories for you, which I kind of like that. Short fuel trim and long fuel trim. This is only a 4-cylinder, so there's only one bank. So you don't have to worry about short fuel trim bank 1, short fuel trim bank 2. It would show you that on a V6 or a V8 or a V10 or whatever the case may be. But on a 4-cylinder, there's only one bank. It's not terribly erratic, although it's adding fuel quite a bit on the long term to get it so the short term doesn't move much. And the way that works is short fuel trim is what's happening right now, and long fuel trim is over time the computer's determining whether the fuel trim is too lean or too rich, and it's making bigger corrections so that the short fuel trim will be in a smaller window. So when the long fuel trim is up and this stops moving on the short fuel trim, that means it's had to make a big correction and it's still able to pull it off. If this goes up to about 20, I think it's 25% for most vehicles, it can vary from brand to brand, but when this gets up around 25% fuel trim, that's when it'll set a fuel trim code. And if it's a positive correction, it'll set a fuel trim lean code. If it's a negative correction of 25%, it'll set a fuel trim rich code. So your short fuel trim can fool you because it doesn't look bad, but the long fuel trim is why that doesn't look bad. If I clear all the fuel learn out, then the short fuel trim is probably going to go off the chart. I'm thinking this thing's going to have a valve cover or an intake gasket style problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the rest of these fuel trim data PIDs real quick. Fuel trim learn is enabled. Fuel trim memory, and it's running pretty bad. The O2 sensor's active, so that's working. The second O2 sensor is post-cat, and that's pretty steady. It is moving a little, but not much. The fact that it's coming down means it's out of the rich cold start cycle, and it's starting to warm up a little bit, and now it's actually doing what it's supposed to do. The front O2 is supposed to be active. The post-cat O2 is not supposed to be. That shows you the catalyst is working. Injector duty cycle, that's going to move with short fuel trim. Fuel enrichment, that's when you're at wide open throttle, it'll max out the fuel system. Purge solenoid, it's got the purge on. Engine RPM, coolant temperature. So we know we're good with that. Intake air temperature is accurate. Mass airflow. Hit the gas, the mass airflow corrects. So we're pretty good. This is a 1.4 liter and it's turbocharged. So it's going to read a little bit higher than 1.4 at idle. What else we got here? Calculated airflow, engine load, accelerator pedal, throttle position. That's all working correctly. Map sensor, you can see that change with the throttle snaps. Everything's working correctly. So to me, the fuel trim, that means those fuel trim numbers are accurate. So if I was using my launch scanner, I'd bring it out under the hood right now, and I would spray carb cleaner around the intake and see if this number changes. I think this will reach, although it looks like we might be getting a little bit of rain. Clouds are looking a little sketchy. So I'll have to be careful I don't get my scan too all wet, but I'll put the window down just a touch. I'll grab some carb cleaner and brake clean or something, and we'll bring the scanner out there. I think this cord's pretty long, so it should reach under the hood. Let's see what the fuel trim does when I spray some of the Magic Max brake clean on the intake manifold. Whoop, don't want to do that. That's no good. Apparently there's something wrong. The exhaust is back here and that's lit on fire under there. Friggin' intake manifold set on fire, spraying brake clean on it. The exhaust manifold's on the other side. Yeah, it's got to have arcing. Something's arcing maybe. Maybe that's why it's running rough. Very strange. Haven't seen that in a while. Got it on video too. The fuel trim did change a little bit, but not much. Very strange. Why did that catch on fire? Very strange. Pull the oil fill cap off of there. You get a big fuel trim change when you pull the valve cover oil fill cap off. It's normal for it to change a little. Something wrong. That is weird, man. Something very strange going on with this monstrosity. Alright. Almost burnt the car down today. That was exciting. I did get my valve cover gasket for the little Hyundai Elantra. Now I got to finish that one. Maybe we'll drive it to lunch, make sure it's okay. I'm going to go out here to misfires and see what we got for misfires. It feels like it's got ignition misfires. Misfire, current cylinder 3. Cylinder 1, no misfires. 2, no misfires. 3, big misfires. 4, no misfires. So what this thing's doing is, and possibly the reason it set the brake clean on fire, is because it's arcing to the head. This coil bridge is a one-piece coil, and when I was spraying the brake clean, I'm assuming that the gas from the brake clean was getting into where it's arcing. You can hear it pop. It's arcing to the head. So when that pop happened and the gas was in the area from the brake clean, it set it on fire. So I'm going to pull this coil bridge out and take a look. Moved it to the back of the shop where it won't be in anybody's way. Gonna have a look. I wouldn't be surprised if this coil has a little burn through somewhere on 3. It looks different than the others as far as the buildup around here. But I don't see any burn through. Like I was hoping to spot something simple, but sometimes you'll see a burn. Well, it doesn't look right. See the way this has like the look of a crack here? You don't see it on any of the others. This is the one that's misfiring, and this looks like a crack right here. I don't know if that shows up on camera, but none of the other cylinders have that. Oh yeah, you can see the spark plug. Something's not right with the inside of this curl. Aha! That was pushed up to the side. All right. See the spark plug? It's got a green tip on it, like it's had some arcing and stuff going on in there. I'm gonna go ahead and get my spark plug socket and pull that out. Ooh, use the old, use the new Capri 3/8 ratchet. The head's really tight on this, the handle, but I like it. I think I like the Carlisle a little better, but the Capri's good. The chrome finish is the same between the two ratchets, but this one is really tight where it flexes in that joint. But let's see here. Look at that thing. See how green it is? Like it's got moisture contamination or something. There's all kinds of oxidizing happening here. That's not good. Something's going on with the coil and spark plug weren't really getting along there. The spring inside that coil boot was bent. So I'm wondering if this had a gap, and for a long period of time it's been not hitting that spark plug right. Let's see what the spark plug next to it looked like. Speed wrench. That's the plug supposed to look like. Woo, they're hot. See both of them together. This is the cylinder is misfiring too, so that's not an accident. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move the spark plugs from 3 to 4, and then I'll put the coil back on and see if the problem moves. If it doesn't, then the coil is going to get condemned. It's a one-piece coil, so it's not going to be, you can't move the coil around that way. Make sure they're good and tight. Now, if you're not experienced, you look up the torque specs and torque the spark plugs to what the manufacturer recommends. But I've been doing this long enough now. I feel when the spark plug's right. You can complain about it in the comments if you want, but that's fine. I'm used to that. Gotta go get my scanner. What I'm probably gonna do is finish that valve cover job, go to lunch, get my scanner, and come back to this one. All right. Let's get this Chevy CRUZE in the shop, start the week off. I didn't get to, I don't think this was in my video. I don't think this was in week 24. Got to have my camera, my Hero 10, gave me a lot of grief last week. I had it on 2.7K and apparently it didn't like that. It got hot and it filled my memory card, 128 gigabyte memory card. I couldn't get the whole week on it. So I'll be in 1080p this week, trying not to spend 25 hours editing 2 videos. 63 degrees here and it feels like it's freezing. All right, just like that, presto changeo. One-piece coil. Move. Always try to stick with the OE brand spark plugs. Got an Eklund coil, so that'd be pretty good. And iridium spark plugs is what this calls for. Piece of cake. Let's get to it. Plugs are already nickel coated, so you don't need anti-seize. If you want to just put a tiny little bit on there, then you can, but I don't put anti-seize on them. They're going from the factory without anti-seize. Last week I spotted this crack. No bueno. Using the Carlisle ratchet on this one today. First time I'm trying it out. Did an induction service Friday. Always do yourself a favor and take a look at the electrode, make sure it hasn't been damaged. Nothing worse than putting new plugs in, having a misfire. Comes a dielectric grease already in there. Decorative sound insulator. Boom. Yeah, the tips of the plugs on 1 and 3 are looking pretty ratty. It's almost like there's moisture intrusion. Halo effect. Goodness, I run it good. I hook the scanner up and monitor my misfires. Friday I had quite a few misfires from cylinder 3. It was not very happy. Whew. I'm gonna lower you guys down a little bit. Scanner down at this bad boy. A 1.4 liter 2016 Chevy CRUZE. Engine 6-speed auto. This is not a high performance car. It has an automatic transmission. Codes. Show you guys what the codes were Friday. 171 lean code. 300 misfire and 496 purge flow during non-purge event. So that's another thing. I'm going to have to check the purge valve and make sure that's not purging when it's not supposed to. Had a pretty bad misfire, and cylinder 3 definitely had a spark issue. So I wanted to put the coil and the spark plugs in it, eliminate that as a possibility. It needed it anyway. You could see the condition of all the corrosion on everything. And I'm thinking the induction service and the misfire will take care of these two, and then it may need a purge valve as well. So now I'm gonna head out under the hood and check that. Let me clear this light first. What do you say to that? Key on, engine off. Yeah, I can leave the engine run. Chevrolet won't care. Lets me clear the code, engine run. No harm, no foul. Functional test, misfired data. Engine RPM, misfire 1, 2, 3, and 4 zeros. Intake air, mass airflow looks good. Turbocharged 1.4 liters, so it's a little over 1.4 grams a second. Engine load. All right, this thing's running really good. I'm gonna go out and check that purge valve now and make sure that we're good to go with that. No more check engine light. It's gonna be happy. Purge valve looks good. This is just 17 to 18. It's just a little bit of a, that's the percentage that's running the purge valve at. It looks like a big change, but the window's so small that the change looks big. Once it jumps up a little more, then it won't look so radical. All the purge valve checks are okay so far, so we're good with that. Probably what happened on this is I did the induction service Friday. That probably set that purge code, I'm thinking. I don't remember seeing it before I did the work on it. I have it written down, so I think this thing's gonna be fine. I cleared the codes, tested the evap system, it works good, misfires are good. All this thing needs now is a road test. Blow out any kind of induction cleaner might be puddled in the intake. I think we'll be good to go. This one's fixed. Thanks for watching. All right, I got a confession to make. I had to come back. Kind of sad, but you know, happens to the best of us. This Chevy CRUZE put the coil and the spark plugs and did an induction service. She came in and had a pretty bad misfire on cylinder 3. The check engine light was blinking. The car was going, bup, 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 you know. So I fixed all of that, did the induction service, and I talked about it having a purge solenoid code, which is the port I used to do the induction service. My mistake. I saw that code, figured it was because I messed with that port. I cleared all the codes and sent her down the road. I did drive it, and the light didn't come back on for me, but I didn't take the time to put my scanner on it and check for pending codes, because she came back, today's Tuesday, she came back saying, my car's doing the same thing, the light's on again. So I checked it out. It wasn't misfiring, no misfire codes, it wasn't doing the same thing, but the light was on. And it has that purge code, PO496, purge flow at incorrect time. You know, you never have the time to do it right the first time, but you have time to do it right when you have to do it over. So I went in, did a couple quick tests, found the purge valve. Even with the electrical connector unplugged, it was leaking vacuum, and it was in fuel correction. So I made some assumptions because I did an induction service on that port. I kind of burned myself, kind of irritated the customer a little bit. I explained to her that, you know, when you have misfires, it may not be checking emissions and stuff like that. Kind of bought myself a little time. I checked it out for free, obviously. Putting the purge valve on for free, just gonna have her pay for the part. But I already went ahead and changed it out. That's what the purge valve looks like. That's the port on the intake that I used to do the induction service. But when you unplug the electrical connector at the bottom, it still leaked vacuum out of the vacuum side, so it was basically a vacuum leak. And now that I've done that, I just gotta clear the check engine light. It's purring like a kitten, idles nice and steady. It's running really good, actually. So I'm kind of surprised she said it's doing the same thing. But customers, that's one thing we have to be real careful with as mechanics. You know, customers, when that light comes on, you know, even though there's 2,000 potential codes or 2,600 potential codes, when that light comes on, it's the same thing. So you got to be real careful. I wish I'd have taken a few more minutes. I was doing the induction service about 10 or 15 minutes after closing. I was doing the induction service, and I filmed that little clip where I said it's got a purge code, but that's where I did my induction service from. So if you look at that video, if you haven't seen it, you'll see where I mentioned that. But it was so late and they were pulling the doors down, we were closed, and I was doing the induction service trying to finish it up. That's how we get burned, you know. It's part of this business. It really irritates me when I do it, but it happens, and you do what you can to make it right for the customer, and you learn from it. And honestly, there'll be times where you're trying to save time or get something done at the last minute again, and it could happen again. You just got to really be careful and try to minimize it. So that's the point of all this. The car's already fixed, clearing the light out. I'm going to take her for a quick drive, make sure nothing else is going to happen. I'll take the time to check for pending codes before I give it back to the customer this time. Definitely don't want to have her coming back again with another new code. Sometimes some of these codes will stop her from checking other things, so you really have to be careful about that and look for pending codes even after you're done fixing it. All right, back from my drive, no check engine light in the Chevy CRUZE. We're going to go ahead and make sure there's no pending codes. This is a very easy process that should only take a minute or two. Once the scanner decides to let you in, we're going to do it together and see if it has any pending codes together. System selection, engine control module, read fault code, DTC display, no trouble codes, system normal. So it's not showing me a pending code. This one's fixed. Boom. Finally. Don't forget your VCI. All right, thanks for watching, guys. You guys are awesome. See you in the next video.